Today we talk about The Oracle of Delphi by Stefan Feld, published by TMG. This is a racing game and a game of pick up and deliver. Yes, it doesn't look like an F1 game, but at the core it is still a game where you're going to one side of the board, picking up something, bringing it somewhere else, so in any case, getting one side of the board to gain a certain advantage and try to go somewhere else to use that advantage, and you're trying to do all of these things faster and more efficiently than anybody else. Set in ancient Greece, a Euro game of, I would say, medium complexity, or it's both a very light game and a sort of medium weight game, because it has a simple idea at the core, but then a lot of other things that you have to take into account. It plays from 2 to 4 players, but maybe it is a solitaire game in disguise, and in the conclusions we'll see why this may be the case. In any case, I want to first tell you about how the game works, but it's Stefan Feld. It's Stefan Feld. So even if I don't go into details, and I'll try to avoid giving you too many details, I want to give you a general sense of the main concepts. Even if I do just that, it will take a while. It will take us a while. So make yourself comfortable, relax, grab a drink, because it's gonna take me a while to give you even just a general sense of how Oracle of Delphi plays. So let's start without further ado. This is a game by Stefan Feld, and like other games that I played by him, it is both very simple and fairly complex at the same time, meaning that there is a very simple engine, a very simple idea, but then there are a lot of rules, sub-rules, and especially unique effects and of advantages that you just have to learn, and it takes a little while to grok them all. The simple idea is that you have 3 dice, you roll them at the end of a turn, and you will use them at the beginning of the next turn, but this way you know what you roll, so you can start planning ahead. You place the dice that you rolled on the corresponding symbols on your player's mat. Each player has one. Then, when it is your turn, you will use them to perform actions. So, for example, you put that die there to perform a blue action, and that is where you place the dice after you have used them. As you can see, these dice are in a circle with arrows going clockwise. You have tokens here that you can spend to recolor your dice. That is, for each such token that you spend, you can move one of your dice to the next station and turn it on die of the corresponding color before you spend it. So the actions are color-coded, and you spend dice to perform those actions. As simple as that. Well, since we're talking about the player area. Here you also have 12 tokens that represent the tasks that you are completing. The first player to perform all 12 tasks wins the game. Each task is associated with 2 icons. One's telling you the task that you are trying to complete to remove that token from your play area, and the bottom half indicates the benefit that you get. The things that you're trying to complete are to kill 3 monsters, those tiles represent monsters, to make 3 offers to different temples, pick up and deliver. You pick up a cube representing an offer in an area of the board, and you bring it to the corresponding temple. To erect a statue, again, pick up and delivery. You go to an area where you find statues, and then you deliver them to areas where you can actually erect them. And here to explore areas and to build shrines. And to explore an area and to build a shrine, you need to find areas with the corresponding symbol. Those Greek letters that you see there are the symbols that you're trying to find on the board. Here, super mega important, you have an area of your player board where you represent the favor of the gods. This is the lowest row, and these are the rows you're trying to move your god tokens all the way up there. Once a god is up there, then the god is ready to grant a special action, and when you decide to use that special action, you put the god back there. But interesting enough, you may not have to go all the way there, at least you don't necessarily start from the lowest of the white layers, because when you spend an action to move one of your gods up, it jumps from the lowest row to the row indicating the number of players, so 2, 3, or 4. And just because with 4 players, so there will be more stuff going on and more opportunities to advance your god. With 2 players, fewer opportunities. This is why you start a little higher, but you're still trying to put your gods there. Here you have your ship, that where you will place the goods that you're picking up in one area of the board and trying to deliver somewhere else. And also, each ship has a tile that goes on it. There is a variety of tiles, and they can be assigned randomly if you so choose. They can be chosen by the players at the beginning. Each gives you a different benefit, as indicated by the icon on top. As you can see, there are different ones. And the bottom is used to store goods, and most ships have 2 slots to store goods that you're transporting. This one just so happens that to have 4. And around the player aid, you place other stuff, for example, those tokens that I showed you earlier. Here, this is the benefit that you get from exploring areas on the board that do not have an icon that you're trying to use to complete a mission. Say, I already completed this, and now I'm exploring an island that gives me that icon, then instead of building a shrine, I get the corresponding benefit. The board is gloriously busy and crowded. It looks busy, it feels crowded. Setting up the game, if you're setting up by yourself before your friends are showing up, which is what I usually do during game nights, is going to be quite a chore. There's a lot of stuff that goes on that board. Also, you have to build the board itself. The board is modular, so as you can see, it's made of different tiles that could be combined in many different ways. That is great replay value. Since you're picking up and delivering goods, then if it was always the same, then players would just fall in love with a certain strategy, and that would totally kill the game. So the board will stay fresh. On the board, we have temples where you're trying to deliver the offerings represented by cubes, and I showed you earlier that that allows you to complete a task. Monsters, by the way, many of these elements you see on the board are placed randomly, like the offerings are placed randomly, the monsters are placed randomly, other things are not. For example, the temples also are placed randomly. What was I talking about? These guys are placed randomly, and so on and so forth. So, we have the cubes representing the offerings, the temples where you deliver them, the monsters. The illustrations are cute, but all monsters are the same, functionally speaking. But it's nice to have different colors and different illustrations. And these clouds, fog tiles represent areas that have not been explored yet. When you explore an area, you flip it to the other side. And again, you see the symbol that may allow you to build a shrine, completing the corresponding tile quest, or to receive another benefit. Now, as we said, you will perform actions by rolling these dice and then by spending them to complete tasks. Now, what are the actions that you can perform? Well, some are color independent. That is, you can just burn a die, no matter the color or the symbol, to perform some of those actions. One of these independent actions is to draw an oracle card. Oracle cards represent pretty much like extra dice. You place them by your mat, and then you can use one of them to use it as a die of the corresponding color. So, for example, I can use this guy as purple or as a yellow. And then you discard them at the end of the turn, and you can only use one per turn, no matter how many you have. Another independent action is to take 2 favor tokens. So these tokens that you can use for a variety of things. So a single die, no matter the color, can be burnt to get 2 of those tokens. Also, you can look for a die of any color. You can peek at what is under 2 of these guys here, 2 of these tokens. But then most actions really are color dependent. One is that one action is to move ships, and you start from there. At the middle of the board, you have a single ship that you move around to perform all of your tasks and to complete your quests. A ship can move usually up to 3 spaces, and it has to end movement in a space of the color of the die that you're spending to trigger that movement. So I'm spending this die for movement, I'm starting from there, and I can move up to 3, but I have to end movement in a blue area, so 1, well, I'm here, so 1, 2, 3, and that is my movement. Suppose next I'm gonna spend another die for movement, and I can do 1, 2. I can also move extra spaces by spending a favor token for each extra space that I'm moving, but I still had to land on a die of the color that I'm using. So if I'm using yellow and I spend a token, I can move 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be a legal move. Movement. Then I can fight a monster. Remember, one of the tasks is to fight monsters. Then I need to spend a die of the color of the monster that I'm trying to get. Each monster starts with a strength of 9, and there's nowhere to record that. You'll just have to keep in mind. Oh, I forgot, from your player rate there is an area here which represents your strength. You always start with 0. There are game effects that will give you more extra points. And so suppose my strength now is 3. When I fight a monster, the monster starts with 6, with a strength of 9. I subtract my strength, so if I'm fighting and this is my situation, the monster that I'm fighting will have a strength of 6 instead of 9. And then you roll the battle dice, which is a 10-sided die, with results from 0 to 9. If I roll lower than the strength of the monster, then I have lost that round, and that usually doesn't give me any penalty, but for the fact that I lost the round, unless I rolled a 0, then I need to draw an injury card. Oh, I think I have, this one is mixed in. Oh, more of those mixed in. Injury cards. And injuries can be of various colors, and that matters for reasons that we'll see later. But if I fail to kill a monster but did not roll a 0, then all that happens is that I lost a round. And I can immediately fight another round of combat by spending, guess what, a favor token. I fight again, and now the strength of the monster is reduced by 1. So if you have a bunch of these tokens, you will be able to destroy the monster. It's just a matter of how many you will have to spend. And that is for the action of fighting monsters. Actually, it's what happens when you lose the round, but to defeat the monster, to win a round, you need to roll equal to or higher than the strength of the monster. Then you remove the token representing the monster, and you complete that quest, and you get the benefit. The benefit is to get one of these equipment cards. I won't even try to get into what those icons mean. Start playing the game and you will look at the icons of the equipment cards as you need, and those are really powerful effects, by the way. Another action that you can take is to explore an island. To explore an island, you need to be adjacent to it, and you need to use a die of the edge of the island. Then you explore the island, hooray! And you flip the token that is on it, and if the symbol that you see is one that you still haven't completed on your map, then you get to build a shrine automatically, boom, and that also is one of your tasks. If not, you get one of the other advantages that are indicated on your player rate. Oh, this is the one that I lost. If you do not build a shrine, but you get next to an area where you can do so, there is an area that is available, you didn't do it automatically as you were exploring the island, then you simply build a shrine as a separate action and you still complete that quest. Another action, if you're adjacent to an area, you can load with an offering, you can load an offering. Offerings are these cubes here, and you place the offering that you loaded on your ship. Remember that tile that I showed you, and you need to bring it to the temple of the corresponding color. And another action is to unload the offering. So you're making the offering and you complete the corresponding task. You can also similarly load a statue. You need to be next to an area that does have statues, such as that one. You put the statue that you just loaded on your thing, and then you're looking for an area on the board, an area such as this one, that has icons, as you can see. For example, this one has yellow, green, and pink, or is that red? That's red. And I have to say this, red and pink really look similar on this board. Oh, there you go. That would be an area for pink, and we already have a statue there. So that's another thing that you can do, and actually you must do to complete your quest, which is to unload. There you go. To unload statues in areas that have icons that can take them, and you complete the task of that. During the game, as I said, you will also get injury cards. You can spend your dice to remove injury cards that you may have acquired. Also, you can spend dice to move gods on the track here, the one that I showed you earlier. You're trying to get them there so you can get their abilities. So at any one time, you may have some gods that are up there and some gods that are here on the way. Now, and some of these abilities are really powerful. At the end of your turn, as I said, you roll your dice for the other round, for the next round, and this is something neat, that when you roll your dice, the other players get to advance one of the gods if they have gods here on the track, and they get to advance one of their gods that they have out and that has a corresponding matching symbol. So actually, if somebody else had rolled these dice, then it would be able, say, to advance this god because of that icon, or to advance that god because of that icon. You, the player that rolls, doesn't get to advance. So everybody takes a turn, and once everybody has taken a turn, the round is over. And at the end of the round, somebody will roll this dice, the Titan die, because the Titans don't like the fact that people go around and complete quests and stuff. And so you roll the Titan die, and if the number that is rolled is lower than your strength, remember the strength is recorded on your task, then nothing happens. The Titans don't hurt you. If the number is higher or equal to your strength, then what happens is that you take injuries, and you take usually an injury from this deck. If the Titan number that was rolled is a 6, then you get 2 injuries. At the beginning of your round, this next round, you check to see how many injuries you have. If you have a total of 6 injuries, or 3 of the same color, then you have to spend your entire turn recovering. Yes, it's a game that gives you a timeout. I'm never too happy about those, about that way of giving penalties. So you skip a turn, and you spend your turn healing, and you do so by discarding 3 injury cards. I think these are the main ideas. If you were to play the game, you still need to learn about a lot of icons. That is, for example, the icons that you get from the companion cards. The companion cards. This is the benefit that you get for erecting statues. And again, they do different things for you depending on the icon at the bottom. Then you have the icons on the equipment cards, the icons for other types of benefits, and so on and so forth. It's icon extravaganza. You continue like this, rolling your dice, interacting with all these icons, attempting to complete your quest until a player has completed all their quests. At that point, they have to make it back to the starting place where Zeus is there waiting impatiently, and the first player to make it back there after completing all 12 quests is the winner of the game. Or to be more accurate, the first player to get there triggers the final round, so maybe somebody else will make it there also. If only one player is there, then that player is the winner of the game, and that's by far the most likely situation. If several players make it there by the end of the last round, then there are several tiebreakers, but I don't think that's going to happen very often. Now, I have many things to say about this game. Let's start from the production values. The game looks really good, and I think although the game, when you look at the board, feels busy and cluttered, still I think it's pleasant. There are a lot of colors, a lot of elements, but overall it doesn't feel, I think it's just one step short of feeling too cluttered, too busy, while still remaining in the pleasant realm of things. One thing that I have to say about the production though is the colors. Red and purple really look very similar to one another. On the dice, they're absolutely indistinguishable. They are just red, both of them. And this, I call it purple, but it's between purple and pink. So red and purple, pinkish, really look very similar. On the board, very often those two colors are associated with symbols, but not always. There are several X's that only have a color edge, not a symbol in it. And it's almost impossible to tell them apart unless they're close to one another. Then the difference tells you, okay, this has to be red, this one has to be pinkish, purplish. That's maybe a minor thing, and I can just say it's tricky even for the non-colorblind. If you do have colorblind players, then I don't know how they can can make these two colors work for them. Again, it could have been enough to associate all of them with symbols or just brown. No one likes brown, right? But if in this game the pinkish, purplish had been brown, I think it would have been much easier to tell all the colors apart. That's probably the only thing that I have to complain about the components. Other than that, everything looks so nice, looks so good, good quality. You got wood, you got the cards are good quality, thick cardboard for the board. Maybe precisely because everything else looks and feels good and is very pleasant to manipulate, that detail about the two colors is a little bit annoying. As for gameplay, I like it, and I like it because it's fun. I'm sorry if that definition is a little too technical. It's just fun. It's fun that you have these actions that you can perform, and I think that the dice that you roll and the options that you have strike a really nice balance between restriction and an opportunity, meaning that you cannot do everything you want, and I like that limit. I like that you have a challenge there in making your dice work for you. But then on the other hand, I never had a run in which I was like, well, I have nothing to do because look at these stupid dice that I rolled, there's nothing I can do. Sometimes you'll get exactly the results that I want. Some of the times I would need to spend some resources, maybe advance my dice on the wheel, spend this resource or figure something out in that sense. So I like that challenge that I have to, well, with this dice I could do maybe not exactly what I want and be done for the turn, do exactly what I want by spending some resources. I like to have to make that assessment. I like the fact that I do have a challenge when it comes to how to use my dice, but never one that makes a bad roll such a bad roll that I pretty much have to functionally skip a turn, which would be really something that to me would be like, a death sentence for a game. That doesn't happen. I really like the challenge that you have here, the variety of actions. I like to go around and pick up this and bring it there. Oh, so fun, oh, so good. Also, I don't mind the fact that this at the core feels like a solitaire game. Now, this being said, there are games where you have direct interaction and getting there and punching you in the face, virtually, mechanically, game-wise, or stabbing you in the back, again, as a metaphor, don't get upset. And that would be direct interactions. And other games that you have indirect interaction. I'm stealing a resource that you need. I'm getting there and grabbing that. And there's a game that's somewhat similar to this one, which is Istanbul, where you also are picking up stuff, delivering, and it's a race game. Not on a track, but on a board with various directions. And there, if I'm grabbing a resource from you and then you don't have it anymore, then it's important, and there you have indirect interaction. Now here, technically you do have it. I could grab an offering that I know you want to do. But in fact, in actuality, this is not a game where I would ever want to go out of my way to do so. To me, direct interaction matters if it's something that I can plan and I can make part of my strategy. I may decide not to get exactly what I want, but I'm taking something from you that you really want. Here, it may happen, but it happens by chance. It happens randomly that as I'm doing my things, ooh, look at that. I could take that statue, I could put a statue on that icon, or I could take that tile. but it is something that happens randomly. It's not something that you plan. It's something that the opportunity arises just because it would be such a huge expenditure of resources that it makes no sense. It's not part of a strategy. So if indirect interaction happens randomly, it doesn't really count to me because it's not part of my game experience. It's not something that I'm thinking about. So I'm still thinking as a solitaire gamer, as a solitaire player, and from time to time, I'll get a chance of taking something that you will like. So it still feels as a solitaire game, even though technically, practically, from time to time, you will take a resource that somebody else wants. It doesn't feel like a game where indirect interaction really happens. And I'm pretty sure there has to be, maybe there is on Board Game Geek somebody that already has shared a solitaire version, and I think it could totally be done. And if they haven't done it, somebody could do it easily. Complete all of your tasks within a certain number of turns. And maybe you have an AI that from time to time, yes, does remove resources from the board. I can see different scenarios, different missions. So do this before you do that other thing. It's not about scoring because there are no victory points, so it would have to be about do it within a certain number of turns. I think it could play perfectly well. Now, as I said, it's a solitaire game, multiplayer solo, and I'm not putting this in the pluses or minuses. It's something that I don't mind, and I had fun doing my little thing, completely ignoring what the other player was doing, because the ways of interacting with other players are virtually non-existent. I could see, oh my gosh, I still have 5 missions to complete and you're down to 3 quests. I'm probably gonna lose the game. That could be a negative actually, because if you fall behind and you see that you're falling behind, I don't know that there are really any catch-up mechanics here. But the solo aspect is not a plus or a minus. It's something that I personally don't mind. I enjoy a game, a good solo play, a good solo game, a good multiplayer solo. It could be a deal breaker for other people. So I'm putting it there as a trait of the design, not as a negative. So I think it's fun. I think you have nice actions here. When you do get to learn about all of the icons, then there are a lot of fun things that you can do, nice combos, and really is how you win the game, by figuring out ways of doing several services on a single trip. I kill that monster on my way to pick up that offering, and I'll explore that other island, and then I'll use a special effect, teleporting. That's one thing that you can do. Teleporting to that place. So figuring out these efficient combos is fun. It's part of the puzzle. So this is for the fun stuff. There are, however, a couple of negatives here. One is that the tiles that give a special power to your ship do not seem balanced to me. There are some that seem to be very, very powerful and some not so much. Maybe I need to play more, but there was a couple of times where really it seemed that the advantage of having a power rather than another one was like huge. One way of doing it, so after a while that you play, you see which of these tiles do seem balanced, and then you simply use those. Other thing is that I need to experiment with this. Don't use the tiles. So don't use the ship tiles. Use your darn ships and establish a number of goods that each player can use. Make all of the ships exactly the same. Don't use those special powers, and see how it goes. I think that could work. I don't see any problem with that. Of course, you're losing an element of the game, but I would say to me that tends to be a minus. But I think it can be corrected if it really turns out to be a deal breaker. And that's probably like the main thing that I have to say as a negative here. If not, also again for the fact that catching up seems to be hard. There are times in which we're like, yeah, why would we? Let's not play the last part of the game. We'll just see that you are 3 quests ahead. We're way behind. And why would we have to subject ourselves to the pain of seeing you winning anyway? Just we'll concede, and then we set up the game again. Which, setting up the game is a little bit of a chore. If you're using the same board, not so much, but if you in the same game night, you want to play more than once and redo the board, and everything has to come out, everything has to go back in, then setting up is a little bit of a chore. Putting it back in the box, not so much. You can put together several types of components in the same bag and you're fine. That will not delay you the next time that you set up the game. So Oracle of Delphi, I think it's a fun game. I think it definitely has an audience, but I think there are a couple of caveats there because there are some elements of the game that I didn't mind, but I see being a problem, even a major problem, even a deal breaker for some players. Production-wise, looks great, but could have been better. And again, there are a couple of things here and there that maybe variants will fix. Maybe as you play the game, you'll come up with your variant, figuring out ways of catching up the lead a little bit better, figuring out ways of balancing the powers of the ships, some other powers here and there that you find on the cards, and because some of them really look better than others. Other than that, it's a fun game. It's a fun game, not an excellent one maybe, and not one that everybody will like the same way. I just so happen to like it because I really don't mind multiplayer solo, but that could be a problem for some players. That's my assessment of Oracle of Delphi by Stefan Feld, published by GMT. I enjoyed it. I enjoy playing it. I see why other players may not enjoy it nearly as much as I did.